We do this. Thank you for the recording. Now we'll get started. Welcome everybody to our second meeting of illustrious group. Appreciate it. If you don't have a copy of the agenda, it's over on the back table, as well as some refreshments that were brought by our newest member, Alan Rubio. You didn't know. I'm not quite sure why they're donuts, but not taking it personal at this point. It's okay.
Several many different flavors, so feels
So good. Absolutely. There. Shines my heart that Grant's taking the first one. So
No, I'm like you eat alone.
I got no shame in that game. I know you. You just gotta go for a run with me afterwards.
So following the agenda, we'll do a roll call.
Yeah.
I'm just going to call off the names. I believe they're in alphabetical order by last name, and I think Ashley and Jennifer may be taking track. So I'll call your name, just say here or acknowledge when they're there. So Brady, begin. Here. Randy Boulderjack. Here. Leland Dart. Lee, can you hear us? I can see you.
I'm trying to unmute here. Here we go.
Okay, thank you. Grant Harrington. Here. Emily Hope.
Here.
Sherry Ireton.
Here.
Tom Norcott.
Here.
Sophia Pastor.
Here.
Alan Rubio.
Here.
Mason Rutledge. Here. Liz Stenhouse.
Here.
John Trainer.
Here.
Ellie Vasquez.
Here.
And Deb Williams.
Here.
Thank you. Mr. President, we have another citizen guest. I see Mr. Shelby's here again. So we'll acknowledge Mr. Shelby in the back. Thank you for being here. All right, next I need a motion to approve the minutes from previous meeting.
Mason will move for the approval of the minutes.
Moved and seconded to approve mode minutes from the last meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Chair says aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Sophia. Sophia. Okay. Moving right along, Council President Schwab.
He could not make it tonight, but I think should be here at the next meeting.
Okay.
So, yeah. Had a conflict that came up.
No worries. We'll need that time at the end of this thing, I think, for sure.
Yeah.
Jennifer's going to talk a little bit about what charter change can and cannot do.
Yeah, well, your committee leadership asked to include some information in the packet about what we can and can't do. So I really just pulled this from the National Civic League guidance about what charters can and can't do. It's a little easier to start with the can't. So a lot of things that you might like see in the community or think about what happens in the city that you'd like to improve, like public safety or the economy, specific projects, those are all outside the scope of the charter, kind of obvious stuff. But you can do things that relate more to the form of government, to the types of options and powers that are available to government leadership and the city, redistribute powers, things like that. So kind of all that I had on it. I did a short little cover sheet and would hope actually to plan to do those for items that you calendar in the future. Those are some basics that came from that. And again, that's from the couple of resources that are on the website. So if there's more background there to read into as well.
So when they say government products, what would that be? An example.
That is kind of a funny way to word that, I guess, but maybe more of the sort of government services. So like how we bill for water, what the utility billing website is like, since I just paid my water bill this afternoon. Road quality, sidewalk availability, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Are we allowed to, so for example, how close to budgetary type of things can we get into? Like, for example, if we ask that, like, if the city is to encumber or take out debt or run a bond or something to that extent, or more than say $1 million, they have to meet XYZ requirements, or it's got to go to a public vote.
I think to some extent that is something that we could look, that would be valid, I guess, to discuss as part of the charter. It leads into something that's like kind of on the agenda, but maybe not totally, but maybe it's a good time to think about it. Is just like, I don't have surprise, surprise, I don't have all of the answers for you. So if there are ideas that you have, I think you could talk about a process to be like, I want to look at this topic. Here's my kind of brief summary of it. And if there's, certain level of interest amongst the committee, then that would help us figure out what kind of research that we could do. I can do a decent amount of it, but if you want to get like the real answer, then I would circle back with legal or maybe other department leads to sort of see how that would work. What are the, advantages and disadvantages or risks around that? And lead towards like what an actual proposal or actual language would look like. I think there's some pieces of what you suggested that could live in the charter though.
I think it's a very valid question. I had a similar idea when I was reviewing. And what I did, and I got to second what Jennifer said, I think we need to hear from legal if we can legally do that within a charter or not. I would go to other city charters and look for similar language or something that they've done to see if it's a valid point. I didn't see any in ours that speaks to fiscal responsibility at what you're talking about, Grant, but I do agree that may be something that as a group we may want to, or it may come up again. So I think it'd be good if we had the answer to that sooner rather than later.
And kind of to piggyback on that, if, as we're kind of doing our research on our own outside of these meetings, if we have a specific question, like a legal question, is that something we wait and bring to the body, or is that something we can email you if we're trying to get into like a...
I think you could email me. I said I don't know everything, but there are a decent amount of things I can provide guidance on.
Shunt us off to somebody who might know.
Yeah. I think that's very fair to reach out if you're like...
I just don't want to waste the committee's time if it's something.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can come back to if it's like, we're going down a long path. I think I do that all the time with council members. So I'm very comfortable. Ask me all the questions you want. And I can definitely assess when it's like kind of hit a point that's like, oh, let's see if there's like, if this is something that there's a little broader interest that we should really dig into, or maybe have kind of gone far enough before we have a discussion about it. So
I think you need a gavel.
no, I'm not the chair, but he could, I have a lot of this. You could,
I just want you to stop saying you don't know everything because I want to sleep all the time.
Other questions or ideas or anything right
Great segue into the next topic, which is
now?
talk
Looks like we've
about.
got a question.
So before I was wondering if in meeting one, we all went around and did
Oh, yeah.
introductions, and I wonder if our new member might do that. Hopefully you've watched ours online.
What did actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my name is Alan. I don't know, you guys met me before, many familiar faces. Glad to be here. Feel very honored, to be picked as the last member. To be honest, didn't think that was gonna happen. But even though I wasn't picked or not, I wanted to always put a little bit of my time and energy into helping the board anyways. I had been working and doing, some research and reading, did a little bit of homework. So, I don't know when will be the right time. I brought some, information that I will distribute with everyone. But yeah, glad to be here and anything I can help, outside of the board or this membership, reach out. I like to be of help. And do the best I can, put the best of my knowledge and capacity for the best the well-being of the city.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. Did you have an opportunity to watch our last meeting? I want to make sure you have the presentation from Ramsey Ramblin regarding public
Yes,
disclosure.
actually, yeah, I heard some of it, but didn't watch the whole, to be honest. But yeah, I was able to watch some of the last meeting.
We can get you a copy of the slides too, I think.
Yeah.
Going into the next topic, and I think it was brought up a little bit here, we just want to talk a little bit about how, as a group, we'll try to operate to make sure that we respect it. Go ahead, Tom.
It just on the charter where it says can, charters can. It says restrict or increase options available to government leaders. I don't know what that means. It seems kind of general to me. So, because I was thinking about an example.
To me, when I read that, we give, in the charter, we give the mayor certain powers and abilities. We also talk about how, as a government, how many council members we can have, and we do have or don't have. And you say give certain powers, I think that's what it's talking about, is when we grant that over. Or-
Yeah, I mean, they're like, it's sort of a lot of the sections of the charter could give you a good example of that. There's a section about city council ordinances that specifies that they've got to have 3 readings, and that you can only combine 2 of them. So when there's an ordinance, the council has to at least spend 2 meetings on it. Almost all the time we do 3. That's in the charter. So that's kind of a power that's also restricted with guidance that's in there. The chapter on the library sets out like how the library is governed by the board of trustees, who's responsible for hiring decisions and kind of operating.
Would one of those restrict or increase be the number of council meetings that city council, which is also in the charter, has to meet?
Yes, the number of council meetings is in there,
Can we,
48.
can we get rid of the word advise? So I guess it's 2 questions. Can we get rid of the word advisory and the charter review advisory committee? And I guess my question to that is like, could we adopt a whole lot of things, because it says only advisory committee? Can we adopt to get rid of that in the charter review commission? So, I guess my question is there a chance that if we want to adopt a certain thing, can it still go to the mayor and city council and not happen?
Yeah, I think the way I envision it, and the way the process when you're involved over before is everything that we do is advisory. So we're going to prepare a report, and we're going to give that to the mayor and city council, and they're going to go through and debate whether to adopt the changes or not adopt the changes. They can go through them one at a time, or they can go through them wholesale. And then, so we are truly just advisory on this is what the citizens are telling that we think we changed.
Can we get rid of adopt or get rid of advisory out of there?
I don't know.
Where do you see that?
Well, the periodic review of the charter, the very last section says that the city convenes this group. You have to review it and recommend what your point is, recommend as advisory to the council. And then there's another section that outlines how the council can propose amendments that go to the voters. So the county, the Charter Review Commission, the amendments that the commission proposes to the county council go automatically to the ballot. The county council has an action just like the city council would, because under other laws, it's their job they have that duty to recommend things to the ballot. So Charter Review Commission can't do it, Charter Review Committee can't do it. But at the county council, they have to recommend it to the ballot. It is sort of a rubber stamp at that point. Differently here, where you present a slate of recommendations and then the council can decide what goes next. So that a long answer to say, yes, I think there's probably a way to change our process to be like other charters where it's more of like the review committee is more of a commission that has a direct path to the ballot, to the voters who then decide what,
But we have to abide by my reading would be that we abide by the current process until such as we make such a recommendation to the council, council approves it, and then voters approve it, and then the structure can be changed, but we have to work it through that if we wanted to make a structural change like that.
So that might be one of our recommendations.
It could be.
It could be one, exactly.
I do think that's a good framework to have. I've been on advisory councils before, and you can do a lot of work, and feel like it goes nowhere, and that can be really frustrating. It can be very frustrating. So it's just good to have that perspective, one. And two, this is where we do need to, we can't be 2 meetings in now and not hear from the council, because they're going to be approving. So we need to know somewhat what they're thinking. Do they have any thoughts? And we're going to be into our 3rd meeting and not hear from the council yet. And I think so we just need to go push back on them, because what we don't want to do is advise something that's totally different than what they're thinking. There might be things that they're thinking that align with us, and we can work together.
So basically what you're saying is you don't want to discuss things that are already dead in the water.
We can. I don't find it real fun. I think we're all smart people and got better things to do than do things that are just not going anywhere.
But I would push back a little bit, because we are charged to represent the community. And so
Right.
if our community is telling us, like, these are things we want you to take forward, I mean, I'm happy to not be a representative, but I mean.
No, I agree with Sherry.
Yeah, in the resolution, it
Only time you'll
says,
ever hear that man
Yeah.
say that.
That's nonsense.
in the resolution, it says we just make
I disagree with
recommendations.
that statement.
And I just wanted to clarify, Jennifer, I think if I'm remembering correctly, these issues that we have in our packet tonight were specifically brought up by city council and or the mayor.
City staff.
They were brought up like through administration,
Not by city council.
not by the council per se. I think that, not by the council.
Might be.
I didn't
worth-
talk to them about it at all, so I can't say whether they're interested or not.
It might be worth mentioning to council members if they come, like if the council president is here, give them a heads up that, hey, we were asking about this, so if you have thoughts, come with notes.
Yeah, if you could bring us an answer next meeting, if you come, that'd be great.
I can say that historically, city council members were often not encouraged to provide input in the beginning of the process. They were told when it was their turn to come to speak at the charter review. So I want to make it important to say that it could be that they're waiting to be invited, because that's what's happened to them in the past.
Okay.
So, just sharing.
Interesting.
Thanks, Deb.
Yeah.
So Don Schwab was invited, but you just didn't know.
He had a family thing come up tonight, so.
And he was
Sorry
just
to
invited
miss
for
it.
a welcome, correct?
Yeah, I didn't tell him that you might expect him to come with his list of things that are most important in the charter, but I will gladly tell him that.
If we want that.
Yeah.
Because I like what you're saying, to have the free range is also nice. No offenses.
And we can have them come later. So I think Council President Schwab wants to kind of give you the welcome and be like, we appreciate you. Thanks for your volunteering. Maybe he'll say something else. I don't know. That's my thought. And if you wanted in a month after you've worked on some more issues, say, we'd like to hear from Council President again, or just invite council members, you guys can do that.
Tom?
Yeah, I'm back to just looking for kind of practical examples, and I don't want to drag the meeting down, but so that last bullet under what the charter can do is convert elected governmental positions to appointed positions or vice versa. So
Probably better examples over at the county where you've got a lot of those centrally elected positions like the auditor, treasurer, and sheriff, and they're all elected, but in King County, some of those are appointed positions. I don't know if we have good examples here of that.
Too many that I can think of.
No.
either. We do have a little bit of meat to cover in a little bit. A couple other topics we wanted to cover before we get going are kind of some group norms. That's just how we function as a group, so we all can be heard and we respect everybody's opinions. I think we're doing a great job on the onset, which is fantastic. We just try to interrupt other folks when they're talking so they can get their thoughts out. Listen as much as you can. Try to limit your sidebar conversations. I'd like to try something that I got used to doing at a different set of meetings I went to. If you have feedback or you want to add something to the conversation, just put your tent on its end and then we'll get to you. That we don't stand here like this. And we don't forget about you either, right? We'll try to take a look. So if you want to have a question, it's kind of like raising your hand, just turn your name tent on its side and we'll make sure we call on that person in the order that they did that. So we know you have something to add. And if a conversation or a discussion starts to drag on, we'll see how many more people want to chime in and we'll try to limit what we're doing there. Might help out. And if you have feedback, I just ask if it could be constructive feedback. If it's non-constructive feedback, it's not going to get the discussion any further. We'll try to keep it that as much as we can. Just trying to norm the group as we get to know each other and get into the tough work. I can see it's going to be interesting, and I think it's going to be fruitful. I think whatever we come up with, I think is going to speak loudly to the council. I appreciate where Grant's going, and whether they do or they don't, I mean, that's up to them. I get it. But at the same time, why convene a charter review commission if you're a committee if you're not going to take our recommendations? Because we do represent citizens technically, right? So next is community outreach. We brought this up real briefly at our first meeting. As members of this committee, and what the ordinance has said is we're trying to bring voices of the citizens to the commission or to the committee, synergize them into one recommendation to council and mayor. And I don't know about you, everybody in the room, but I felt it it'd be a good idea to reach out to my neighborhood groups. So I sent out an email I live up in District 2, so I sent an email out and I said, hey, there's a meeting coming up. Know who I am. If you have any input, charter review, participants in the committee, please email me, go to the website or whatever. We have representatives from all the districts in the city here. We did that intentionally. If you want to do any outreach, if you want to contact your neighborhood organizations, if you want to contact your neighbors, or attend any other types of functions where you can get feedback from other Everett residents for our process here, I would encourage that.
We also spoke about making kind of like social media posts and just making sure that Jennifer will hand out anything that we're able to post. I know like when we first spoke, going over like what we can do, what we can't do was kind of scary, trying to make sure that we didn't get in trouble. So I also just offered and asked if they could just also hand out some social media posts that could be easy. Just, hey, part of the character review, any questions, anything you guys want to, let me know, just so it'd be more easier and kind of like easy flow going into the community as well.
Does the city have any sort of social media policy that they can share with us also regarding, because I'm still we typically work with a lot of electeds, so are pretty tighter about seeking feedback via social media.
We do, and I think kind of what we had talked about too was like, I could get especially when you've got your public hearings set, if we've got a city post that's like, here's the date for the community, that it's okay to share that. As
opposed to like, I'm on a charter review committee, all your thoughts and comments and
right,
hopes and dreams.
Yeah,
I just think that clarity would help, so we have a clear line of what we should.
Yeah.
And can I just go back to the norms?
Okay.
Could I recommend, if the group would be open to it, sometimes you go down a rabbit hole and it is a really good idea, but it's not the right rabbit hole to be in. So could we also agree to have maybe like a parking lot where we take that idea and set it aside and make sure we come back to it later, but to not derail, so we still keep the good ideas flowing, but not get off of the topic that we were on at the time. So just people would be able to that. So
I think it's a good idea.
I agree with her.
What do we want for format for that? There's a whiteboard, but I'm always reticent about erasing people's stuff.
Oh, we've just done sticky notes on I do this with my team a lot. So we just have like a little, what do you call it? Poster sheet thing. Yeah. And you just write on a sticky note, stick it on there. And then before you end the meeting, you make sure someone's assigned to it to either it's a research thing, bring it back for discussion later. Maybe by the time you get done, you're like, that's not a thing anymore, let's throw it away. That's typically how I've done it, that works, but again.
With like notepad, open up on the screen and just like type a quick note on the shared screen?
Yes, yeah. Ready for it.
Digital age.
Whenever you are.
Can do that. Thank you, Sherry. I appreciate that.
Got three answers.
Mason?
For some of you that have done outreach before, how has that gone? In doing outreach in the community, my fear is that what I'm going to get back is the cars are too loud on Greenview Drive and the bathrooms need to be unlocked at this hour in the park. And how do you get them on? How do you, and of course, we're going to get feedback from folks that understand the process, but how do we help folks that don't understand the process?
I'm happy to respond to that because I've had that already and I tell them, this is the city charter. This is not the ordinance. This is of the city of Everett. What you're talking about are valid questions. And I think you should contact, your city council person about those. What we're looking at the structure of government within the city and how it's governed and any changes that need to be made there. So totally hear you, Mason, what's going on there. I would deflect, is what they call that, deflect them to say, that's not something that we're reviewing, but I hear you. Gotcha.
Or you could start the meeting off going through the cans and the cans. So when we talk about, when we got the minutes here, it talks about appropriate recommend changes through a vote of 10 members. These efforts are guided by a code of conduct. So where's the code of conduct? Is that something that's written down somewhere that?
It's in the resolution that the council passed. It's linked on the page, but I could bring copies of it too. The code of conduct it's very literally quite similar to the city council's code and just talks about maintaining professional, respectful environment, conduct with self-awareness, self-respect, professionalism, treat all others with respect, dignity, civility, refrain from engaging in hostile, intimidating, offensive, unlawful activities. And that's in your role as committee members here. There's more words, but those are the basics, yeah.
Is it possible we can get a tune-up on Robert's rules? That's how we're gonna conduct business. Is that true? Okay.
Well,
very, very similar to Robert's rules. I think a lot of us in the room may have done that. We could certainly try to give a tune-up, but I think one of the things in the ordinance where it talks about we had to have 10 people agree to recommendations that go forward. I think we should set a bar as well if you have an idea that you want to discuss in the meeting, you should probably have at least one other person on your side with that, maybe 2 or 3. I wouldn't, I could recommend 5. You can get 5 people to agree that, hey, we need to talk about this. Let's bring it up and put it on the agenda to prevent the singular concepts going forward. And we're spending a lot of time on something that you're the only person or the committee person is the only person that really believes that needs change. So in line with Robert's rules, that's the second option, right? So I'm going to bring this motion forward. I need a second. Somebody else will agree with me. Not to make it really complex and say you need a second, a third, and a fourth, and a fifth, or something like that, but bringing ideas forward, we will look for support for ideas before we spend a lot of time discussing them, for sure. And then we'll take the vote whenever we feel it's appropriate as a group to make sure we got 10 or we got the requisite number of people that are in line with that to move it forward.
So I just want to understand your last remark that you want us to see if we have a second or a third or fourth or, have a few people to discuss, but how are we supposed to do that? If we're not supposed to have serial meetings outside of this, we can't email each other to talk about a particular thing before we come in here. So are you saying we come in here, we say something and you're going to see if we've got a few other people that's interested in talking about that? Can you clarify that a little bit for me?
My vision to this concept is that if you come forward and you say, hey, I want to change the charter, I want all city signs to be purple. Instead of us as a committee, all 15 of us spending a lot of time debating whether that's right, wrong, or otherwise, if you had support behind that, because we're going to have to get to 10 votes before we can move it forward to the city council anyways, where does that come from or how does that happen? I think if you bring it up or if we put it on the agenda ahead of time, if we know about these topics, put it on the agenda, then people can look at the agendas before they come and they'll kind of go through. And then when you bring it up in the meeting, I'll say, is there support for this concept from Ms. Williams? And they'll say, yeah, or we can do the formal thing and ask around and see if we got 4 or 5 people to do that. I think it's more about trying to limit conversations that aren't going to get a lot of time. So we focus on stuff, and we'll table those things that probably not going to get the support from at least 10 members to move forward to council and mayor. And so we want to keep it kind of concise.
So for this example, like his bond conversation, we would want to know if there's like 5 people in the room that want to have a bond.
Yeah, does anybody else think what Grant's idea about having a bond is a good idea? And just take a straw vote and people would say, yeah, we do. I said, okay, well then either we'll discuss it then, or it'll be an item that maybe you want to put on the agenda so we have time to look into it and then bring it back to the conversation next week.
Yeah, but I think if somebody wants to, I think if somebody wants to make a proposal that we give each person, so let's say Sherry has an idea that she wants to bring to the table and she wants to have a change, I think we need to give them like a 2 to 3 minute period to explain their why, whatever, before giving an initial vote. And then we could say, Sherry comes in and says, here's what I'd like to propose or something that we'd like to go over. And she gives a presentation, to where her whys and those types of things. And then we do an initial vote with it. And then and then we give other people time to either tell why they voted yes or whatever. And then we do a second, final vote at that point in time.
Or amendments. Or amendments to.
The discussion takes place at that point. No, I agree. That's fantastic. I think it's a good process. I think of how to get there. I think we're kind of, flying the airplane or building the airplane as we fly it, I guess, as they say. But yeah, I think if you have a topic that like tomorrow you come up with an idea or you have a conversation with your neighbor about a change to charter, then if you could send it to myself and Jennifer, and then we can put it on the agenda for the next week, and then we can expect that. So it's, hey, Sherry's going to talk about changing all the street signs next meeting. And so then we can look at it. You'll see that's coming. You'll know it's coming. And then we'll hear your why. And then, like you say, I think it's a great idea. Take a quick vote. Who all thinks this is a good change? And then we get the most people that say yes, then we'll continue. Keep doing that. Otherwise, we'll put it in the parking lot.
You might also use that. Think about that method for ideas that come from the public. So got one idea at least, and maybe others. You might hear other random ideas at the public hearing. In order for those to advance, then a commissioner, would kind of need to sponsor the idea. So same concept, you maybe would say I thought that was a good idea. Here's why, explain why. See if you've got the support, and then we can do, build out the research after that.
And that's where the Robert's Rules things comes in. If you make a motion, you got to have a second before you can have the discussion. You'll see that a lot in councils, right? So you've got a motion, somebody's got a second, otherwise the motion dies at that point, does not get talked about. It's kind of what we're trying to pattern this after, but we're not a formal city council, but we are kind of following those rules. So if you come up with an idea, have some support, and then it will generate a discussion by the whole group. Brady?
Yeah, excuse me. I think what I'm sort of picking up on from that conversation is that 2 things, agenda setting and agenda following are both really important. So I completely agree. Our last agenda item is future topics for discussion. So I think saving some of those until the end of the meeting so that they can be brought up as agenda setting can definitely be helpful. Not to say that we can't discuss things between meetings if something comes up. But from my personal experience, I've been on boards and commissions and I've staffed boards and commissions. And I think what we're doing right now is kind of the problem. It's not following the agenda. So we were, I believe, on community outreach. And we're now talking about, again, we've gone back to norms. So If we could maybe add at the beginning, usually you'll see approval of the agenda as a motion that needs to happen. So if we could be sure at the beginning of the meetings to do that, because that would also be an opportunity to add or move things around on the agenda. And then I often hear it referred to as Bob's Rules of Order. So it may be not as militantly adhesive to Robert's Rules of Order, which get really complicated. I understand that. But I think generally following them so that when we do have discussion items, we maybe hear the staff presentation or whatever it happens to be. And then we have an opportunity to ask questions. And then if we need to actually take action, then we have a discussion for taking action. And then you get into seconds, motions like that kind of thing. So I think as long as the agenda is kind of clearly set and then clearly followed, we'll be able to streamline some of the conversations.
So on to the next one, we said about public hearings. So we still have some time for that, but we just want to touch base with it, just so we kind of get started getting ideas of, well, where can we actually have them? We mentioned libraries because we thought of, city places like this won't be too welcoming for a lot of people of the community. I found out there's a hall on Silver Lake. Grant mentioned that a lot of people from Silver Lake don't feel like they're represented well. So that's also like a big thing of the outreach part, is kind of hearing from everyone in the community to figure out what locations fit best. So far we thought of libraries. There's 3 libraries in Everett that might work, that are pretty spread out. So just another thing to kind of keep in mind of any other locations that might pop up. That way when that time comes, we'll kind of just approve it quickly and go on to the next thing.
Really quickly, something that hit me the other night is we making ourselves available at like neighborhood meetings. And is that something that is appropriate for us to go to, like, our neighborhood meeting and be like, hey, I'm part of this charter review board? And I think that if so, that we should try to have at least one person represent, like District 1, I think there's 20 in here. But like, I think one of us should be at least at each one of our neighborhood meeting, at least one neighborhood meeting from each district at some point between now and the end of the time.
Mason.
Jennifer, what's going on with neighborhood meetings versus district town halls? Is there some change? Are neighborhood meetings going away? Are they being replaced? Just so we're targeting the right thing to go to.
Neighborhood meetings aren't going away, so those are still a great place to meet your neighbors. So the mayor did have their first district town hall 2 days ago, District 2. And so neighborhoods often ask for the mayor, police chief, city staff to come. So the town hall concept is more like, let's spread the wealth over one night instead of 19 nights. The town halls will be places where you are certain to be able to get mayor, chief, perhaps he's new, so that's why he got invited, but maybe somebody else in the future. And bigger group, maybe more attendance. Also a chance for neighborhoods to maybe have new folks attend that hadn't checked out their neighborhood, but are interested in this, like, oh, this is a bigger deal, do a little outreach and grow their membership. I don't have we don't have dates for the other districts quite yet, but so it might be a little bit before we get another one on the calendar. Yeah. I'll make sure to let you guys know. We try to let the whole city know, but I'll flag it for you if we get one scheduled.
That's exactly what happened to me when I reached out to the Northwest neighborhood. One of the persons on the Northwest neighborhood board reached back to me and said, wouldn't this be better to do it at district meeting instead of at the neighborhood meeting? And I'm like, yeah, it would if they were scheduled. We don't have them yet. So, but I like that. And I also appreciate sharing the wealth, because I don't want to go to all the neighborhood meetings. There's 4 neighborhoods in my district, and trying to get to all of them. I think it'd be great if we all just kind of carried the load.
You guys already sound like council members.
Well, they overlap.
Yeah.
But they're not, the participants aren't always the same, and sometimes you get more granular and organic at the neighborhood.
Getting back to public hearing locations and finishing that topic on the agenda, is there anybody have any strong opinions or ideas of where or when we're going to have those? Because we really got to kind of start thinking about dates and locations, because we're going to really only have like 2.5 months to do this work. So, Emily?
I would definitely recommend we get our first hearing for public hearing as soon as possible to make sure that we're getting that public insight early, rather than us getting too far in the process and then having to tack on a bunch of extra meetings to be able to have time to talk about what we brought up.
Any thoughts on dates or location?
I'd love South Everett, somewhere down there, because I live in South Everett and I know that there's not much gets done down there. So I would love to do something closer down there. I like the idea of Silver Lake. I think it's a great idea. Dates, next meeting.
I'm good.
Yep.
I think we had actually talked about doing a public hearing at the next meeting, which was March 12th. That was your suggestion in South Everett. I thought we had talked about possibly looking at the facility, the old
The event
grocery
space.
outlet. Yeah, so maybe if somebody can follow up on that facility, and I would recommend March 12th.
I went to that meeting on Tuesday where they had the multiple neighborhoods together, and the mayor did mention that the charter review is underway in her speech.
The only other idea, I'm sorry.
Sherry?
I'm sorry. No, it's okay. It's okay. We're all learning. I do think March 12th is pretty soon. Just doing a lot of engagement with community. Maybe end of Brady and I were sharing mind melding. But I definitely think South would be great. I don't know where, is it the old grocery outlet on Evergreen Way?
Yes.
That is a
Everett
great,
Mallway.
Everett Mallway, sorry.
It's out of that.
We're gonna go the other way. I think that's great because it's parking and access and public transportation was gonna be my big thing. So that all has.
So I did reach out to him because I do know the owner. He hasn't responded to me, but the modern day furniture, they're also very involved with the community. And so they also, when I did ask them a while back, because we kind of mentioned that was gonna be part of this, if they more than welcome, would love to host us as well. So it's not the same building, but it'd be when they don't have it open. And they also do a lot of community events as well. They do Santa photos, all that type of stuff there too. So if the location for the venue says no, or they try to charge us, then maybe going next door might be work, same parking and stuff, just a bit smaller.
She was next.
I interrupted though, so maybe. The only idea I had, and I don't know if it's a possibility, was maybe like a high school. That obviously it probably would have to be on the weekend or something like that, but that seems like an accessible location with enough parking and maybe public transit to get to as well.
Great ideas, right? They'll probably charge us, so public, knowing the public
Really?
schools.
Yeah. They could do a civic day with their students and they could be a part of it. Like,
Deb,
The only thing about the modern furniture is I did go to an event there, and I would encourage us to look for an open space, because like modern furniture, we sat on couches downstairs and then there were people around the corner. And if we anticipate a big turnout, I think we need to look for a space, maybe even out at Silver Lake. There's a park facility out there, the fire station out there. I don't know if it has a community room or the South Precinct. They have quite a big room that, of course, I would hate to whisper to people. And right as I said that, I thought, who's gonna want to go to the police? I wouldn't want to go to the police department. So skip that one.
no, these are all great ideas, and I know we've, as far as locations, we reached out to Demba to
A
see.
couple people, but it goes back to money, and we
Yeah.
don't have no money to rent out. So maybe, like you said, the Silver Lake Park is really pretty. I'm sure someone has like a tent or something that we could pop up and just bring chairs and stuff, make it more community if possible, if last resort. But like you said, we could maybe reach out to some high schools. That was a good idea, but I know they do charge as well. So maybe more library place. The library was probably my best bet, that they were open to it and letting us borrow the rooms and stuff.
Library facility we would get for free. I think that 12th, I would agree that it's a little aggressive, but the 26th is definitely doable. March 26th meeting of this group, I think would be probably me one to do. So.
Are you doing, do we have to do more than one? I can't.
Yes.
Two, yeah,
Two.
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
I got that other commission too in my brain.
Okay.
They met
I
last
was
night.
gonna volunteer if it would be helpful, so Ellie doesn't have to do all the stuff by herself. If a side working group to help and make phone calls and that'd be.
I mean, that's, if you guys have that connection, like I said, it maybe come to me, but if Debbie knows them, they'll say it's to her. So if you guys do have a location that you think would host us, please reach out, let us know. I think that's,
I will connect because I do a lot of, oh gosh, we do a lot of. Oh.
Grant?
I was just gonna say the exact same thing, Sherry. If you did in trying to get the meeting moving forward, if we can need help, don't reach out to me. I know a ton of people, a ton of business owners and people that find space. And I'm more than willing to help with Sherry. But I think that we probably want to move forward in the meeting and I vote that we leave it up to Ellie and whatever she comes up with, we go with.
Does the 26 work for everybody?
I just want to caution us, that is the opening night of the season for the Seattle Mariners. You know, coming off the playoffs, I think we're going to lose some attention on that night, just so we're aware.
Yeah. Noted, so noted. Mr. Rubio?
Oh, just an idea. Also, the city has many rental venues indoors, and they're pretty inexpensive. Like, I don't know, depending on the day, $80, $120. Like in each city, indoor rental venues. There's many of them throughout the city. So that's also some weekend, beach venues.
And we don't have a specific budget for the committee, but
we have influence.
We can get funds.
We have influence.
That level of funds should be achievable.
Yeah. John?
Just since you asked, first of all, no bearing on what you schedule. On the 26th, I'll be in DC, so but please schedule away. I want to be there, but
sure. Yeah.
So
I have a question. I'm just wondering, do we want to schedule the second public hearing so we can try to get those that can't make it at the first one? Possibly like for the second one, can we look at a date for that right now?
April 23rd? I was out of town again.
I'm out of town on that day too.
Yeah.
I'll be phoning.
DC again.
Does not have to be on a charter review day. I'm just picking those dates off of my calendar where I've already set my calendar.
We're not actually going to hold a regular meeting there, are we?
That's a good point. We want to make sure, I think it'd be good, at least the second one to hold, have it not on a regular meeting night, so we have time to discuss.
Plus it opens access to people if they
Yeah.
can never make Thursdays.
Weekends?
Weekends, there be out of question?
No, very game.
I work
Say
every day.
people will be more, have more free time to go.
On
somewhere
the weekends, do it, right?
I do.
Again,
Yeah.
if you guys think it's right.
So maybe April 25?
Can I ask for a reminder of what our deadline is?
Our report's due June 1.
Yeah, I would, if we're going to do, I'll just throw this out there, if we're going to do our first public hearing really early, I almost feel inclined to do our second public hearing relatively late in the process, because I don't know how much is going to change between. That is essentially one meeting in between the two public hearings, if I'm following that schedule correctly. So I don't know that we're going to be, I think it might be beneficial for that second public hearing to have a further clearer understanding of like what we're actually working on and going in the direction of.
It's like May 5th, Cinco de Mayo.
That'd be a great day, actually.
Yeah, there's a lot of people involved, right? Mason?
Well, how far out do we need to be for this first meeting? I'm a little, as we're talking about this and mentioning, I'm a little nervous giving up a meeting of us for the public comment meeting. Like, I think it needs to be in addition to our regular commitments, because we obviously have a lot to talk about. And and it seems like if people know we're rolling and we're waiting another month from now to meet, I understand 2 weeks might be a little bit tight, but 3 weeks might be, or we could look at another night. But I'm just looking at it. Yeah, that makes me nervous a little bit that we haven't given comment for that long. So I don't mean to throw a fly in the ointment, but question.
I think maybe something to think about, kind of to Brady's point, is like, is the two public hearings maybe have different purposes. Like one's really early, it's like blank slate. Maybe I'll just close my email. I had it open to share this map, but then I can open it again. Got more emails than I expected in the 5 o'clock hour, but so early to get the random ideas that are out there, and then late to be like, we almost have our final report ready. Here's the final draft. What's the input on that kind of final draft?
And that makes more of an argument for me not waiting another month for that first meeting. That would be a couple more meetings out.
Okay.
Yeah, I two things. One, just trying to get this meeting moving forward. I would say that the two meetings that we do, the public review one or the public ones, I say we just do them on Wednesdays. Or then we still potentially meet.
I can't do Wednesdays.
City council.
Okay, what I'm gonna try to say is this, is we need to move forward in today's meeting to stuff that matters a little bit more. I mean, and so we're not gonna find a meeting that's gonna work for every single person. And so I agree with both Mason and Brady that they should probably spread out a little bit more and that they should be in addition to our regular meetings.
Okay.
But I also think that we need to also, if we're going to empower Ellie and Sherry to schedule those, find locations and stuff like that, we need that to let them do that and then come back to us. And then that's when the meetings are. And if they're important enough to us to be able to make it and to be able to be there, we get there. So that's my thought process.
Real quick, we'll do Randy and then Deb, then we'll move on.
I like that. And what I was going to propose, I suppose it's kind of a friendly amendment, is I still like the March 26th date. If we empower that committee to figure out where the location is. And then I was going to add, because we are going to need more discussion time. Potentially, we've set up a cadence of every couple of weeks, and we have the opportunity to fill in those additional weeks. We can have more meetings as we determine that we need more time to go over those topics. I think that's kind of what we discussed the possibility of in the first meeting.
I agree with what you were going to say, what you said. Actually, I think you said it even better than I could have. And I think this discussion is important right now because the one thing for me personally is trying to get sooner than later. I'd like to hear from the public. I want to hear from outside. That's why I think this discussion is important right now.
And that's why it's still pushed for earlier than a month away from now.
Thank you all for that. That's great.
How come we moved away from March 12th?
Too soon.
No, I agree with that because isn't that first one supposed to be hear the public and then bring
My
stuff?
only concern as a person who does a lot of communication from a city account, trying to just get enough engagement and get it out. And it's just a really short window.
2 weeks, right?
If you're a working family and it's on a weeknight, now you're like trying to balance like basketball schedules and spring breaks, when you're getting off work and who's picking up who. So that's just
March 19th. Just, it's in between.
Yeah, and the weekends, I think, are fair game as well. Nobody said no to that, so I think that does increase availability for some folks as well. So I think we come up with something along those 2 weeks. I think was a target we set up for that week, either the week of the 12th or the week after that. Come up with, and I think dates are going to be important for facility availability as well. So
Sophia raised her hand on the.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Yes. Do we all have to be there at all these meetings? Because if not, the most important thing is that we do hear from the public and then we gather afterwards anyway, and we're going to go over the comments and we can review them if we receive the minutes before the meeting that we have between ourselves. I think that would be the most important thing, that the public has a way to communicate and ask some questions from whoever is able to be there, and whoever is not able to be there, we can participate in the follow-up.
Good point. Yes. No, you don't have to be at everyone. We encourage that, of course, but you're right. Whatever they bring forward will be synthesized in minutes and we'll have the discussions afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
So we got 4 dates, right? So we're gonna have 2 meetings.
Are you guys okay if we are aiming for like the week of the 12th and the 19th? Dependent on like actual facility availability. If it takes us like 4 more days and we're sliding closer to the 12th, maybe we end up choosing a date that's closer to the 19th to allow for, you do want the public to know in advance about it so that they can show up. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you need to do a little bit of flexibility in there. So.
Full authority.
I'm trying to dump it on you guys.
Do what you can the best, and then those who can make it, we're gonna make it, and those
There's
who
other
can't.
staff that can help support.
I don't think there's anything that's gonna be 100%, and I think we put it off, dump it on their shoulders, and whatever they come back with, we show up.
There you go. I like that. All right, moving on. Article 11.2.d. Let's talk about this. This was one of the issues, the first issue that was brought forward by city staff we talked about. We're going to get a quick briefing from city staff, which I'm assuming is you, Jennifer, at this point. And if folks had the chance to read those documents through that Jennifer had sent out, we can chat about those afterwards. So go ahead, Jennifer.
Yeah, so I just had a few initiatives that were proposed to the city in 2024, and I don't know, maybe others know the last time we had initiatives on the ballot in Everett, but I don't know. We certainly haven't had 3 all at once in a long time. That brought to mind this section of the charter, the 11.2.d, that specifies how you qualify to bring an initiative to the ballot. In the 3 examples, I put the votes that they gather, or the signatures that they gathered in order to qualify. So they all were successful to be placed on there, and they had 934 up to 1,307 signatures. That met that minimum threshold of at least 5%. That was 928. A couple of them came pretty close, but they did have enough that qualified. They both had more than the qualifying amount. That's the amount that was determined to be valid. Everett's level of 5% is lower than most other cities in the state that have a charter. I grabbed all of them. There's a municipal research services site that has all that info. Spokane is the same as us, but most other cities are varying from 10 up to 25%. Regardless of what you think about the number of signatures and the percentage that's required to qualify, there's also maybe a question about the language about what does it mean to be a percentage of votes cast at the last general city election. It seems kind of obvious, but it did require a bit of a legal determination when we had these 3 initiatives. I think maybe when the charter was very, very first adopted, like 100 years ago, the city ran its own elections. So it was a little more obvious, like there was a city election, the city ran it. Now the county runs the election. What does it mean? So anyways, a few other cities use the language of votes cast for the office of mayor. And I guess presuming that you usually get the most votes cast in that particular election on the ballot. And it makes it a little more clear that it's like not just the very last general election that occurred in the city, but that particular race. So, yeah.
Well, what is the percentage for the county?
I was wondering the same.
Yeah.
And if we change this thing from say 5 to 10, all 3 of these wouldn't have been on the ballot, right?
They would have had, because they got so close, they probably would have had to gather more signatures. You're right. If they only gathered that many, they wouldn't have made the ballot. They would have had to. Yeah.
I'm more in favor of people being able to vote on initiatives and not one person.
I'm curious what the problem we're trying to fix here. I mean, is action request the committee approve a motion to request a policy proposal? Why? I mean, is it a problem that it's so low? I mean, yes, it's unusual. I'm just trying to understand the methodology here. I mean, the point was made that they probably would have had to get more signatures, but like they succeeded at the ballot. Well, one of them, if we're talking about those minimum wage ones or whatever they were, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of curious what we're trying to fix here.
I think the point might be that there's like 115,000 residents. I don't know what the usual number of voters would be, somewhat less than that, but not 1,000 people. So it's a small amount of folks that are able to drive something forward. And maybe there should be a higher threshold to say like, oh, there's, whatever we've got, 40, 50,000 voters. Can just 1,000 of them advance a topic? So, but there's other sides to it. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Liz? I'm looking up the county amount right now.
I was super nerdy and I tried to figure out the math of what that number would be before you sent this, and I came close. I got 1,100. We had 35% voter turnout, which I actually thought was pretty good based on our registered voters. So I had that same question, John, of like, what is the problem we're trying to solve here? But reading this section on the model city charter, it did seem like there was a lot of opportunities in terms of like, they had some language in there of whoever's putting forward an initiative, they need to have like their five members like named and locations so that it was clear who was behind it. And if those people later decided they wanted to not put it on, to take it back and not have it be on the ballot, because city council listened to them and some other thing happened and now it's largely taken care of. It talked about a time period for collection. And I like this idea too, in terms of like, what specific election are we talking about? Because I had to go to all kinds of places to try to get my number. And so even if we decide, hey, the threshold should be somewhere between 5 and 10, I think the language in there really should be cleaned up. I think there's a lot of opportunity to clarify it.
Kind of same thing. I guess the entire thing to me was just like confusing. And my only question would be, who exactly is this like, who's this coming from that wants it changed?
The partly legal that had to do the review and interpretation of the language when the initiatives came forward. And then I think I would say just generally city administration, like we are lower than every other city. Does it make sense? Should it be a different number?
So are they wanting to specifically make it harder to have an initiative pass or to get on the ballot? Or are they just wanting more clarity as to what it takes to get on the ballot?
Both, maybe? I don't know. We definitely want more clarity.
Okay, I'm all for clarity. I'm not for making it more difficult.
Mm-hmm. And Randy found the county amount. It's 7%, but it's of the last governor's election. So sort of like those years when you've got the highest turnout, but a 7% number. So.
I was going to note, it kind of goes to what John was talking about. We had a situation the other year in Columbia County dealing with a public library, and they had a very low threshold to run an initiative. And as a result, in that community, Washington State very nearly became the first state in the country to close a library over censorship issues, because that low threshold, especially a smaller community, you can effectively have a lower percentage threshold in a larger population that still requires someone to get, okay, is this issue really representative within that community? They were able to confuse the issue further by saying effectively, if you voted yes, you were voting to close the library versus yes, supporting libraries. And it took state law intervention where we had proposed that threshold increased to 35%. The compromise that we reached with legislators in the area was 25%. But you can have something as a result of a low threshold, of a very, very low threshold, you can have something really wild and deleterious to the community happen before anybody has any idea what's really going on. just citing that as a case study.
Mason, you have a comment?
Yeah. The question was, why this? I have heard about this from some people. Some of you in the introduction introduced yourself as policy nerds and that kind of thing. We're the all-star team. Most voters are completely confused by these things. And we get complicated initiatives. Yeah, I'm the captain of that team. And we get these initiatives that I don't quite understand. There wasn't clarity in the front end. The procedure wasn't really clear. And they pass because there's just a push because we get swayed so easy by other things today. And then our city attorneys end up chasing lawsuits, or I don't know, lawsuits might not be the right legal term, but whatever it is. Case in point would be, the Rivers Have Rights, I think it was, initiative that our city had. And I think we had to spend money and time and it lost in court. And it kind of got pushed forward really quickly by a small audience. But it won, so you kind of go good. But it's like, I don't know if we ever got a really thoughtful process on it. So that's where I think we could just help everybody out. I think that's the why. I do have a question. Does the state have a level of requirement for municipal initiatives? I tried to find that. I think they do. Like if a city, a municipality does not give a level, the state has a minimum level.
I believe cities that don't have a charter, it's 15%.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Great. Let's go online. Sophia, you're next.
Yes, I know that it can go both ways. It can actually create situations where craziness gets on the ballot, but it can also benefit some very important initiatives. And I agree with not making democracy being practiced harder, but I think clarity around it in the language and maybe defining how and what can be put forward would be useful.
I have been really enjoying our friend Benjamin. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but yes. So he kind of provides a primer for some of these things. In one of the documents that Jennifer sent out, a Seattle city attorney has made notes in front of some of these articles pointing out where there's inconsistencies. So this article in particular comes up. So I just wanted to say that I want to agree. One of the confusing language pieces in here is the article references both the general municipal election and the general election. Those are not the same thing. So at a minimum, I would be for at least making the language cleaner. But the other thing I want to make sure that it doesn't get lost is in 11.3, there is also an opportunity for, if say the initiative leads to an ordinance and it takes effect, there's an opportunity for those who protest that ordinance to reach a threshold of 10% to be able to protest it. So there's a checks and balances in there. So that all said, I am also though for raising it to at least 10%, just given the population size of the city. And that is all I have to say.
Brady, come.
Yeah, I was just going to mention as well that I haven't had the chance to do a deep dive into that yet. Maybe it addresses this, but I think if I'm remembering correctly, one of the questions with those last few initiatives was that there were competing but very somewhat similar minimum wage initiatives, and there was a question of what would happen if they were both approved. And so I think that's something that's worth looking into as well.
Tom.
Yeah, I'll agree that the clarity part of it, definitely, because even after I've read the voter's manual or the voter's pamphlet, it's hard to follow because some of the initiatives have double negatives in them, and so. I had to go back and take a look at the pros and cons for sure, and I don't know if every voter takes the time to do that.
As I hear everybody around the table, it sounds like we're pretty uniform that we want to change of some sort to this section. Is the next step, Jennifer, to have legal draft a change to that, or do we come up with that, adding a percentage? I'm looking at the recommendation on that.
Yeah,
You
so we can, you could make a motion to do it, but I think we heard, like,
Think
you've
we
hit your
heard enough.
threshold,
Yeah.
perhaps, if there's interest in it. Plus, it's like, the thing that I heard differing points on was 10, 7, 5, like, there's not a lot of complexity there, like, that can just be, like, you could vote on that particular issue. I don't need more guidance on your thoughts. You can think about it and we'll return to it later. But yeah, so I'll have the team look further into it, and we could bring it back as a specific recommendation.
I'm gonna make a motion, so, because I don't think we're at the spot where we can give good enough guidance for them to write and put something. So I'm just gonna make a motion right now that we, if everybody that we vote on, that one, that yes, please give us a suggestion of clarity of what it should be. And then two, I do think that we should give them a proposed number or percentage to go to. And then they can include that in what they give back to us. I do agree with Sherry, again, that I think it's ridiculous that we have two different standards of thresholds, and those thresholds should be the same, whether it's 10, 7, or 5. I think that your opposing thresholds need to be the same. I do like the idea of just going with 7 because of the fact that that's where the county's at. So if the county's at 7, I think we should probably stick with 7, any alignment that we can have with them. That would be my thing. So I propose a motion that we can vote on, that we go with, yes, we want clarity written up or something. And then 2, I propose 7% for both. Both the one that you talked about of
The referendum.
And referendum.
Yeah, all I was gonna say is just make sure they're tied together, because if we change one, we should make sure that the board has a opportunity to look at 11.3 also, because
Yeah.
I'm more impacted.
I totally agree. I agree that those two need to be in lockstep with each other.
So Grant's made a motion. Who's in agreement with that? Anybody? Everybody?
Well, and there are 2 parts to it, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because I kind of want to separate those 2 parts. I'm a yes on part 1 and a no on part 2.
Okay, so
Okay.
we'll go around, I'll make a motion, we'll put the number over here. I'll let somebody else make a motion on the number. I make a motion that yes, we go back to them and ask them to write something that's more clear, and then we vote on that to be the final thing. So.
I would second that.
Third.
I think there's support for that.
Just need 2 and a vote.
Yeah. Yeah. So if we can vote on the motion real quick, we're gonna ask the city legal or who?
So your motion is to ask staff to bring back a proposal that would clarify the language in 11.2D around the thresholds.
Yes.
Maybe leave a blank spot for the number.
Yeah.
Okay, discussion, Brady?
Yeah, sorry, I agree with all that. I was just gonna say, I'm thinking of it almost as like a planning commission standpoint of like, I'm just going to assume that with any of the items that we're discussing, staff will bring alternatives. So we'll be discussing amongst options instead of trying to prescribe what we want them to bring back to us.
Tom, what discussion?
Just for my education here, the difference, the disparity then between the thresholds are what again?
So, well, there's kind of 3 thresholds, if I read this correctly. Please don't make me the policy. Jennifer really should be the smartest person to know about this. I'm just reading this. So the Osage where there's a council action by petition. So that's a whole other thing that we're not even talking about. That's in the section before this. So I don't want to get into that because it'll be weedy and nobody seems to be upset about it. So let's not. If it's less than 15%, that's the section we're talking about, which is this section D, which is that if such a petition is signed by qualified electors in number at least equal to 5% and less than 15%. So it didn't reach the 15% threshold to go to council, but it does have at least 5%. And then it gets into the whole weird, like general election, blah, blah, blah. Then that could be brought forward. 11.3 says, basically, if that petition leads to an ordinance, a petition signed by qualified electors at least equal in number to 10% of the entire vote cast. Again, that's where that needs to be clarified because that's not even the same language as in the previous section. Protesting against the enactment of such an ordinance, it shall be suspended from taking effect. So there's that checks and balances.
So this is tied to the prior one, or is it any ordinance, not just one that came through a citizen initiative? Like that's where I
Oh,
thought
sure,
it was
yes.
the difference.
There's like an initiative that's like, this is a new idea.
Yep.
Rivers, minimum wage, new thing. Referendum is like a referendum on a council action on an ordinance.
Oh, so it's not related.
The council just passed the mobile food vendor legislation. Someone could say, I don't like it. I got signatures and.
Which I think is why it's higher, right?
Yeah.
Because
I think that should be higher.
Yeah. And then the two thresholds with the initiative is if you hit that 15%, it's sort of saying like, wow, you got a lot of people think this is a big deal. The council can just sign it into law. Or they can say, let's see how this goes. Let's ask the voters. And then the lower threshold is like effectively the limit that all these other cities have, where it's the kind of between 15.5 and 5%, but 5%. And then that's what qualifies it to be submitted to the voters.
Not to overcomplicate our discussion, but I liked some of the other points brought up here around some other restrictions that can be brought in based on the national.
Right.
That was brought, you had mentioned time for collecting signatures. I don't remember everything, but I liked what you were saying.
Yeah, requiring the petitioners committee, like who all is behind the initiative to be identified, time period for collection, specificity of which election is in there. They also have a very specific, nothing related to budgetary, you're not going to dictate what we pay the city attorney or anything like that. There's a pretty substantial clause in there around that, which probably makes sense to include.
This is all part of the clarifying language, right? Okay, which is Grant's motion, any other discussion? We can take a vote. Grant, go ahead.
What would you recommend? Or what number, Sherry, what number do you think would be, for both those numbers? What do you think would be?
Well, I was gonna go with the 10%. That's just seems to be standard across cities, I would say, that are peer to us. So anti-initiative, but we're just a big city. It's a big population. That is based on truly gut instinct and not in this, so.
I share it with you.
Okay, good.
Do you want to put in a motion for 10%?
We have one motion on the table. We have a motion on the table first. I think we'll get through that one and then.
Get through the,
Yeah.
do we want to do the clarifying language kind of yes or no?
Any more discussion on the clarifying language?
I'll call the question.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye, passes. Okay, so next.
I'll go for it. It's 10 to, so 10 sounds like a good number. I make a motion, I'm kidding, I would make a motion that we, God, I'm so tired.
Raise it to 10%.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I second.
And this is for, to be clear, this is for raising the threshold for the minimum for 11.2.d.
Yeah.
To 10%. Yeah, just to be.
Okay. It's been a motion and a second on the floor discussion. Tom?
I would amend it to be 7%.
There's an amendment to 7. Any seconds on that?
Second.
Go ahead, Sophia.
Yeah, I'm supporting the 7 as well.
So then we vote on
So we're
7.
going to vote on 7 for the amendment. before we get
Yeah,
back
so
to
that
10.
was for Ashley. Tom Norcott made the motion and did you second it?
Yeah.
Is that right?
I did.
Okay. So John Trainer seconded. And for what it's worth, this is guidance for us to bring back the proposal. You'll have to vote later on whether you actually are like, this is the recommended change that we're gonna, recommend up to the council and hopefully the voters. But yeah.
Okay, so discussion on the amendment, making it 7%. Mason?
Yeah, I'd be against a 7%, set more to 10%. And what really swings for me in this is the state of the city right now, and maybe just generally, I just think we need more unity, and the more we look like other cities can help us. And our city also has some serious financial struggles, and we just don't need to be chasing ideas sometimes that need more formulation. And I don't think 3% is too much to help idea get more formulated.
Discussion, Brady?
Yeah, so I'm just gonna reiterate what I said earlier, which is that my preference would be that we ask staff to bring us alternatives to consider. Because as Jennifer just pointed out, we're gonna have a discussion and a vote on something, and we're gonna have a discussion and vote on in the future. So I'm gonna be voting no on the amendment, and I'm gonna be voting no on the underlying motion, because I don't think we should be considering this at all right now.
John?
Sometimes you second for discussion. Like, I just have concerns. I get what we're trying to do here and the idea behind it. I just, we have representative democracy and we have direct democracy through initiatives. And if you've ever had to gather signatures for something you care about, it's hard to get 1,000 signatures. So I'm just throwing that out there for discussion's sake. Just have concerns about it, so.
Any other discussion on amending the motion to 7%? Hearing none. Who votes to amend the motion to 7%? Raise your hand, please.
Aye.
Okay.
Vote is 3. Those who vote no to amending to 7%, raise your hand, please. The amendment's defeated. Motion stands at 10% to be the recommendation when they do the clarifying language to bring us back to us, which we'll vote on later. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Say opposed.
2, 3.
I guess I abstain.
John Brady lives. Okay, so the motion passes. So we're going to recommend clarifying language and 10% when Jennifer asked city staff to prepare the new 11.2.d. That'll come back to this body and we'll get a chance to discuss it again and vote on it at that point, to Brady's point.
I quite candidly, sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm good either way. I just think it's better if we go back and say, hey, can you put a number in there? I'm fine with 10 or 7. I just think that I was agreed that it needed to be raised and that they needed more, like they needed to be in alignment, and that, we can go back with them to like put a number in there, but I'm good with 7 or 10, right? Like so I agree with everybody, and
that's great.
Oh, sorry.
I'm just going to say real quickly, being on the other end of this, it's sometimes is helpful if you give them a number, not that they're going to take the 10 and go with it or the 7, but sometimes in a staff perspective, when you're trying to get together what you all would like, it's helpful to give a number. And so that's my reason for voting the way I did.
It does give we'll have a good assessment on the 10 and give you some, feedback back on that.
So we have about 5 minutes left and we have 2 important things to talk about. What's the committee's wishes as we go on to future topics, or do you want to tackle 2.2 right now? We can put 2.2 on the agenda for next meeting, or we can bring it up now. We only got 5 minutes to discuss it though.
I think 2.2 is going to be complicated, and so I think we'll have a better discussion if we have a little bit more freedom of time and preparation heading into it.
Table it to the next meeting, put it on the next agenda.
Yeah.
Randy has this.
And
My thought would be even, I almost wish this had been before the 11.2, that we talk about how we're going to collect suggestions for topics. So going into this agenda item versus, another issue.
Grant?
yeah, can we, I just think that we need to move that one up to like the top 3, so we get started earlier on it next time.
Yeah. Next meeting, we'll go right to the meat, I think. We all know how we're working now. Tom?
Yeah, I'm not worried about trying to do everything in one meeting.
Okay.
I don't know how many of these we have on the list, but 3 seems like a pretty good chunk of it.
All right, let's
suppose that we give Brady the gavel. He's the one that's gonna get us out of here on time.
So, comments on future topics to be discussed.
So sorry, was there motion to table the agenda item until.
Do we need to?
Do we need a motion for that? Do we need a motion or chair discretion to move to the next agenda?
Maybe I do.
You okay with
I think
that?
it's at the chair's discretion.
Okay,
That's fine.
we'll move that to the,
Good to clarify though.
yeah.
I already got other feedback from legal, so I might update the cover sheet for next.
Awesome. Okay, very good. So future topics. Anybody have ideas of how you want to receive that? How much information you want? How we're going to share that amongst this group? Do you want to go on the agenda? Do you want to do it on an email? Thoughts?
Can I throw an idea out
Okay.
from my other volunteer work across the street? The method that they're using at the county is any commissioner can propose a concept. Ideally, use whatever method, but ideally you could email me that idea on, say, like end of day Monday before the upcoming Thursday meeting. And you don't have to like go crazy trying to research it. Maybe it's just a couple sentences. Maybe it's a little bit more of a proposal, like this is the problem I want to fix. Here's a couple of reasons why. And I believe that it could live in this chapter of the charter. You don't have to write the legal language. I feel like you can get support for that, but then we can put it in the packet, get it on the agenda. You can do it earlier too, but sort of as like a last day to expect us to include it and have it published. So that's an idea that they're using across the street. You don't have to do it that way though.
Other ideas?
Oh, I like that. I just, the addition I'd make is that there's a discussion before of, okay, present your idea, adding in like whether you want to present that in writing, maybe that can go to the chair, or do we want to just discuss, or is, people can base that on their presentation preference.
I would say it would be great to have an email sent out ahead of time with that short blurb and then still present in person, because that way we can have a couple days to think on it after we read it and then come with some questions that might get answered in that short presentation.
Alan, go ahead.
Yeah, so I have been doing a little bit of research and kind of an outreach. There's 9 other charter cities in Washington State. So I read some of the mayors, council members, and the board chairs that I was able to find their information. My investigation was based on like what you guys did, what was the hotter topics on your city, and what's your form of government and how that has been working for you guys. So, I got some good feedback from some mayors and some council members from other cities, and also put some of my own ideas, checking the charter and things like that. It's something that I would like to, share around with you guys. If that's okay, just for you guys to take home and take a look, and next time we meet, you guys will bring the ideas.
If you get a packet to Jennifer, she can distribute it to us as council members and then
Scan it in the public
scan it in the public record. It's got to be
I'll
public
take
record.
one, you can hand the others out too, so.
Then I don't have to print it.
Take a look.
Thank you.
Thanks, take a look and
I'll get them to Cynthia.
I would like to at some point, because I think there's probably about 3, maybe 4 hot topics, which that we want to dig deep into. And so, and I don't, the other part to it is what happens if we have like 3 people who want to go over the same topic. And so I think, so I think we should just all, do we have time? No, we don't. I was just gonna say, is there a way we could all just kind of go around the room really quickly and just, if there's 1 or 2 topics just right off the top of your head that that you want to get into, or that are most important to you, maybe we champion that or we put that off, but I'd like to hear like from each person in this room, like their top 2 things that they would like discussed or gone over, but we're at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, we're at 6 o'clock. I like the idea. Maybe if you have topics, you can email them to Jennifer, and Jennifer can share them amongst everybody, so we have them before the next meeting. And then, so if you have some burning topics you want all of us to consider that you're probably going to bring forward, get that out and we can throw them in there.
Can I ask a question of Grant's comment, just so I understand? Is it possible to have working groups within this group? In other words, okay, so there might, what I hear you say, there might be 3 or 4 of us, like, I'm hearing about that, or about that. those four could work on it together and then come here. Okay.
Yeah, so can't be 8 of you.
Yeah.
That's a quorum, and you can't have 4 of you meet and then like a couple of you go talk to a couple more people and then it becomes 8. But you can establish the subcommittee and it is okay to talk to each other, but just remember Ramsey, attorneys and fees and all of that messaging that you got 2 weeks ago. And try to keep in mind, like, okay, I'm working with this small group on like the eligibility issue or the initiative threshold we just talked about. I'm not going to talk about it with this others, basically, like sort of keep that committee to a set group, but you totally can do that. At the beginning, you were like, well, how do I know that somebody's going to like the idea? You can find you can talk to others. Just don't talk to everybody and make it less than 8.
Do we have everybody's phone number so we can
Yes.
call instead of email and text?
Did I send it out?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Liz, something quick?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, maybe if you wanted to add to the agenda next week, everyone could bring their 1 or 2 things ahead of time. And then we could just say, we could just see it tomorrow, or not tomorrow, whenever we meet next time, a couple weeks.
2 weeks, yeah, the agenda, we can add that.
Just add that as a pre-work for everyone.
And remember to call, don't text, don't email. And use the burner, don't use the burner.
Email's good as long as you include Jennifer. That's all.
That's all.
Entertained motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you all. Good conversation. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Leah. Thanks, Leland.
Thanks, Lee.
Do you want our
Leave them.
things?
Yeah, you leave your.
Leave your name tag.